You know those Western TV shows and like movies that depict life is all about like partying? Apparently not.
So what would be some East versus West fact?
Meme. I live for memes. Like science memes. Sometimes, they crack me up and I sound like a guru now, but you get my point, right?
Hello everyone, I'm Aditi and you're back on Topsy Tipsy. So today we have a very special guest here, Janine, who is a Filipino and is currently studying in Canada. So let's get her to introduce herself.
Hi everyone, my name is Janine Ko and I'm a third generation Chinese Filipino. I'm a young professional working in the edtech industry and an educator. Oh wow, that sounds surreal. Some of my students know me as Janine the Tutor. In fact, I was a former international student and I studied biology at York University in Toronto, Canada. Fun fact, Aditi and I actually met over LinkedIn. And honestly, I didn't feel that I was credible enough to be on her YouTube channel. So thank you so much for the warm welcome, Aditi. It's such an honor to be on your channel.
Oh my God, I feel like a celebrity, but it's totally not like that. I'm glad that you are here on my channel and we're having this conversation. So today's topic is going to be more about how the challenges that international students face, and we will get an insight into the mind of an international student and how things become when they move away from their home. So let's start with one question that we all have. What motivated you to go and study abroad?
Honestly, to sum it all up, it's because of opportunities. Even though I was living a comfortable life back home in the Philippines, I've always wanted to experience life on the other side of the world. And I wanted to become financially independent just because I came from a very Asian and traditional family. And so for women to really move out of their homes, it's only when you get married. I didn't really want to constrict myself on these timelines because I have goals for myself. I wanted to learn things that could never be learned in the comfort of your own home. For instance, I wanted to understand what it's like to work your way up.
That's a very great insight. And what I'm saying is that even I come from an Asian family, Asian background, where women are not given that much of an importance, and the education is not considered to be something that would brighten up their future. So what I would say is that it's a very, we are very lucky to have a family who supports us. And I totally understand that, how in Asian culture, you see women as someone who will get married and will be sent to another house. So I think it's a very great insight, and it's amazing that you are trying to be independent and you're educating yourself to be on that path. So it's really amazing.
Thank you.
So, yeah. So I was wondering, so since since you moved out from your house at the age of 16, when people are thinking about, when people are not yet, people have not yet thought about the career or planned it properly.
Sure.
So were there any hesitations when you moved out from your house at the age of 16?
Yeah, definitely. I hesitated a lot. I mean, I was abandoning the comfortable life that I had in the Philippines, along with my friends and my family. Moving to the other side of the world seemed easy, but it's actually not. I mean, the fact that I had to start over, build new friendships, build my network, etc., the list goes on. That's just very daunting to think about as a 16-year-old. And prior to moving, I always had this picture perfect life that I wanted to live, finish grade 12, get into a pre-med program, and then get into medical school and ultimately become a doctor. However, I mean, look at where I am now. I experienced 180 degree shift, from pre-med to tech. It's crazy.
Right. So I think it's always more important to, explore yourself, because I feel at this point, none of us will ever be sure of what we want to do. And It's not always about those roles that have already emerged in a society and those, what do you call this, conventional beliefs. It's more about finding your fit, finding your something that will motivate you. So I'm glad that you're taking those risks and you're like so far ahead than a lot of people in your career path.
For
So I was wondering, how long did you take to adjust in Canada?
I mean, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. It took me almost a year to fully adjust to the new environment just because I was homesick all the time. I just miss my family and especially my parents and siblings, 24/7 I would be calling them.
Right.
I was actually debating, at some point when I was in high school whether I wanted to go back home and pretty much move back home. And I guess one piece of advice that I can give to any international student out there, or honestly any young professional, is to find your support system. Talk to people, reach out when you need help. So I think that's something that I wish I could have done more when I was, in university.
Right. Yeah, I totally understand because even I'm an international student who had to move countries to study.
Mhm.
So, yeah, it does take time and it can even take up to 8 to 12 months just to adjust in a place.
Yes.
But, adaptation is the key and you need to know your way to adjusting to any situation because
For
things will
sure.
change. They're like change is the only constant, as they say. So, things will change, but all you need to know is that you have to be able to adapt and adjust to the place.
Yes, adjustment is a catalyst for growth. I
Right.
fully agree with you.
Wow, that's a wise advice. Okay, so what were some culture shocks that you got when you got there?
I think whatever you see in the media isn't an accurate representation of what reality is. Those Western TV shows and like movies that depict life is all about like partying. Apparently not.
Right.
I think it really depends on the crowd you surround yourself with because, growing up, I was surrounded with people who wanted to get into med school. And so honestly, let me just tell you, I didn't really had a life, like a social life. So it was just like I needed to excel academically. And then also tipping is a thing here. So I'm not sure in Singapore how it's like. Yeah, so it's like here in Canada, yeah, I can only speak for Canada since I've never really crossed the border yet. So here in Canada, you have to tip. Back when I was in the Philippines, tipping isn't really a thing. Even though you went to these fancy restaurants, typically they would have like a service charge that will be included in your final bill. So that's sort of like how the tipping works. But yeah, I'd say tipping is it's necessary.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty natural to have like cultural shocks, even if you move different cities. So moving from east to west was a very like big changing step in your life, and it was bound to happen. But
Definitely.
it was amazing that you
For
are
sure.
happy now and you've settled well there. So that's a
Mhm.
very great thing. Here's something really interesting. So, what
Mhm.
would be some East versus West facts? I'm pretty sure a lot of people would want to know that. So, let's see what you have to say.
I think growing up in Asia, mental health definitely wasn't really valued. Unlike here in the West, it's pretty open, to talk about depression and, things like that. And as a former student, since, I did my schooling as well, for high school in the Philippines and then here in Canada for university, I can say that students here in Canada are more I would say they're more involved, like in terms of participation. So they love participating. And in the Philippines, it's more receptive. So it's like whatever the teacher says, that's pretty much like what you need to do. And
Right,
people are afraid to raise their hands to speak
right,
about like a topic. So that's what I noticed. And also, in addition, I think because in Canada it's very multicultural, it's very inclusive here. And for a lack of better term, I think people here are very opinionated. So, for example, we do have like the LGBTQ community. We have different initiatives like the Black Lives Matter. If you've heard
right.
about that, yeah. So we're very open in terms of discussing topics.
Right. I think it's very important to be opinionated and to stand for what you think for because I feel like in the Asian culture, people don't really want to express themselves or stand up for what they want or for who they are. So I think that's a very important aspect that should be integrated in one's life.
Was gonna say, people get sorry to cut you off, but I feel like people, coming from an Asian family, people get afraid to speak up.
Right, that's so true. Like, also, we have to realize that just because someone is older to you doesn't mean that they have the right opinion or the right advice, because you're always learning, and at one point in life you could even be right, or you could even have better opinions than a person who's elder to you. So that's like one mindset that we have in the Asian culture, to always accept what our elders are saying. So I think, yeah, we should stand up for ourselves and have our own opinion. Yeah.
Insert a light bulb here. So
Yeah, we'll do that. Okay, I'll do that. Yeah. So what is the one habit that you got because of living independently?
for sure, I would think getting things done for sure.
Right.
Let's see. Saving for my future, definitely another one, and also promoting self-love.
Right. That is so super
Yeah.
important. That is super
For sure. Yeah, I was gonna add on to, the individuals who watch like a lot of K-dramas. Like
Okay.
this is like the heart. Promoting self-love.
Yes, self-love. That's so true.
Sorry. I just had to like plug that out there.
Yeah, what I was saying was, like, even for me, it took me time to get there, but I feel that once you start living independently, it becomes like it is important to accept yourself. It is important to love yourself. Only then can people love you, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, so it took me time, but I'm there. Right. It's
I'm so proud of you though.
yeah. Thank you. So now, like, the next question that I have is, what is one experience that you had dreaded in future, that you had dreaded in the past, but is the best part of your life right now?
I definitely consider my research experience. So I was heavily involved with academic research for almost 2 years of my university life. And so during that experience, I was able to meet such an amazing professor that, probably one of my favorite professors until today. I'm very fortunate that I was able to work with Dr. Tsushima, the Tsushima Lab. Yeah, shout out to the Tsushima Lab if you're watching this. So I think they were able to really make my junior and senior year such a memorable experience, because honestly, if you're in biology, it could be very draining. And so, we do have like a couple of lab jokes. I thought that was just, very fun and engaging, because I think that's why I want to, stay in the edtech industry, is because I wanted to make, math and science as engaging as possible. And honestly, I live for memes, like science memes. Sometimes, they crack me up, and
That's great.
I think they're funny. So, I'm the only one who can like understand. For example, like if I show like a meme to like a friend of mine who's in business, and they couldn't really, he or she couldn't really relate to, the meme. And so I think that's where I really value my science background. And because, it's like, basically, I don't want to say it's very exclusive, but at the same time, it's like, I don't want to think that my science background is a disadvantage just because, I went into the industry, and a lot of students, they do like pursue like medical school and like grad school. So I was still able to, take a part of, that like science,
Right.
science part.
Right. Okay. So do you have any memes for us?
Oh, I do have an Instagram account. So
Oh my God.
I'm just gonna plug it down there on Aditi's description box, if that's what you call it. Sorry, I'm not a YouTuber, but
It's okay.
so basically graduated cylinder. So I posted you've seen a graduated cylinder, right? I'm not
Right.
sure in school.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you think about graduated, right? So I graduated, and because I've been using cylinders in the
Nice.
lab, so I have like that photo, and then
Oh
basically
my
I do have like a graduation cap, and then
That is amazing. Oh my God. Who would have ever thought of that? That's amazing.
or that was just like that was a troll, honestly.
Love that totally. Are there certain mindsets that you think you will never be able to adopt as an Asian in the West?
Mhm. I think the Asian mindset of why doctor, right?
Yes,
Like
I'm a doctor.
Yeah, exactly. So, there was one question actually. One parent of one of my students asked me, so this kid was basically in the pursuit of transitioning from high school to college. And so the parent asks, does my child need to pursue a program in university which brings him or her money, or which brings him or her the drive and the passion? So basically the question is, should the kid pursue like some sort of program that's going to bring a lot of money, and that's probably going to be like doctor or like engineer, that kind of path, or is it something the kid needs to be really passionate about?
Right.
Okay, so take a moment and think about that. Like, how are you going to respond to that, right? And so I was stunned at first because I thought to myself, I was sort of in that situation, right? Because I was like, all this time I was pursuing, getting into med school, right? I was pursuing, the mindset that becoming a doctor means you're going to be successful for the rest of your life, right? And so, yeah, from then on, this is how I responded. Why can you not do both?
Right.
And I think growing up, in a very Asian family, I've always had this pressure that I needed and I wanted to succeed no matter what, whether it be in school or in my career. I had to please everyone in my family because I didn't want to come home and become a failure. So that's something that was really instilled in me. And I think that's why I initially wanted to become a doctor, because of the authority and the success that it came, right? And so it wasn't really because of social impact, because I think as a young professional, who has learned quite a lot, by speaking to other professionals as well. I mean, don't get me wrong, doctors do have a great impact, especially during the pandemic. And I think as I've grown older and, gain more wisdom, hopefully, we cannot really settle into a career that we're not really invested in just because, this is your life. Do you really want to be miserable for the rest of your life? If not, then you need to find a career that, you're passionate about, but at the same time, you are driven. For example, every single day you do have a reason to, wake up and like pursue, right? So I think that's something that you really need to consider as a young professional. Okay, I sound like a guru now, but you get my point, right?
I totally agree. Like, I feel at this age, what we should promote is that we should celebrate the idea of failure, because it is through these failures you will be able to explore yourself to find what you really like. So that is something that's very essential, and that is something that I don't see currently in the Asian society. So yeah, like, accept failure, embrace failure, because that is what leads to success. And like, it might sound very like cliche, but it is something that we all know, but we don't really consciously think about, like a lot of us. Here's like a very interesting question. If you could describe your life similar to that of a movie or a TV show, which one would it be and why?
I personally think that it's a little bit hard to describe my life
Okay.
to a TV show or like a movie, just because, first of all, I cannot predict, my future, and it's not like I can write a script about, my life story and what's going to happen. I can only control the current situation and what I invest my time on, right? Which are through different projects. However, I do love Stranger Things. Do you love Stranger Things? Have you seen that?
I don't.
Okay, you need to watch that, girl. Honestly, you need to watch Stranger Things. But I think if we were to narrow it down to like the themes of Stranger Things, I could say probably, searching or yearning for that home, because as an international student, I do feel that I've always, I was always looking for an area or an environment, sorry, not an area, but an environment where I truly feel myself. And also I've always wanted to fit in, with individuals who grew up in a different environment. And so I think it's more finding that belongingness, not so much about, literally like a home, right? Like I have a home It's
Right.
not, yeah, it's more like finding that belongingness. And so I think ultimately we can learn, from 11, from the character
Hmm.
or the protagonist of the show,
Yeah.
that she was unique enough. And so as international students, we really need to embrace our uniqueness, because if you are to initiate a conversation to, for example, like a local student, then the student would be more keen to know about your journey, right, because of what you've been through as an international student.
Right. Right. Like I feel like as an international student who has lived in different places, even though I'm an Indian, I feel like I'm being torn apart by different cultures. Like I'm not, I don't belong to one place. It's like I'm a product of different cultures. So
Exactly.
that's what I see myself as. So
I
that
think
was
it's more like, yeah, I was gonna say, I think it's more like an identity crisis, to be
right.
honest.
Right.
Yeah.
That is super true. So it was amazing having you here on Topsy Tipsy. You're really passionate of what you're doing because that's what
Thank
matters.
you.
And I like a lot of people, including me, will really look up on you, like because you've chosen what you wanted to,
For
even though you
sure.
initially started with the cultural norm of being a doctor. So
For sure.
it's very respectful of you to choose what you want, because a lot of us may not have that realization. Uh,
Mhm.
Even until like a later part of their lives, that they should stand up for who they are or what they want to be. So it's
Yes,
really incredible
absolutely.
that you're doing that. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Aditi. Honestly, I think, as a former student, I could, yeah, not even as an international student, but as a former student, I think you really need to be honest with yourself of, what you wanted to do, because it's not like no one is going to live your life, right? It's like you're like the author. Okay,
Hmm.
that sounds a little bit off, but basically you're the one who's controlling your life, right? And at the end of the day, you shouldn't be like living, someone else's dream, in my
Right.
opinion, because I think that's
Right.
just very sad.
Hmm.
So I think you really have to, I mean, it takes time to really find your passion.
Right. That's great. Yeah, I totally agree to that. So, yes, so I think this is the end of our video, and it was great and it was amazing to have you here. In the end, find your passion, find your belief, and stick to that, because that's what is more important. And thank you for joining this conversation, Janine. It was amazing. And
Thank you.
yes, so guys, do give us a thumbs up, hit that like button, subscribe to my channel, and keep watching Topsy Tipsy. Thank you, guys.